Calm is power. I used to think power meant reacting fast, speaking loud, and defending myself in every moment. But I began to notice something different. The person who stayed calm when others tried to provoke them seemed to hold a quiet kind of control. Their stillness changed the entire room. And it made me wonder what real power actually looks like. Not in what I say, but in how I respond. In the end, I am beginning to see it clearly. Calm is power. The quiet invitation. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. Viktor Frankl. I want to begin somewhere simple. Not in a crisis, not in a boardroom, not in a moment of pressure. But here, with you, noticing something familiar. The feeling of being pulled. The subtle tightening in the chest when a voice rises, when a message feels sharp, when a moment asks for a reaction. I have started to see my life as a series of these small edges. Moments where something reaches toward me, asking for energy, asking for response. And I wonder, not how to control the world, but how I meet it. What if calm is not something I do, but something I notice? What if it is already there, waiting beneath the urge to react? The shape of a trigger. What you resist persists. Carl Jung. There is a strange paradox in the mind. The more I try not to feel something, the more present it becomes. This was observed by Daniel Wegner, who asked people not to think of a white bear. And immediately, the bear appeared. I recognize this pattern in moments of tension. The instruction not to panic quietly becomes panic itself. The mind does not process negation well. It holds on to the image, the word, the feeling. In this way, calm cannot be forced. It resists pressure. It unfolds only when I stop trying to push everything else away. The body before thought. The body keeps the score. Bessel van der Kolk. Before I form a sentence, before I choose a response, something older moves through me. My breath shortens. My heart accelerates. The body reads the moment before the mind understands it. Science suggests that stress begins not just from events, but from perception. When the brain senses that the demands of a situation exceed its resources, it signals alarm. Not because danger is certain, but because uncertainty feels like danger. And so I begin to see that calm is not the absence of stress. It is the relationship I have with this first wave. The mirror between us. We are more often frightened than hurt. Seneca. I once watched a moment unfold between two people. One raised their voice. The other did not respond, not with silence as withdrawal, but with a kind of steady presence. It shifted something invisible in the room. I am beginning to understand that humans mirror each other. Emotion travels quietly between us. In moments of tension, we do not only exchange words, we exchange states. A raised voice invites another. A calm presence interrupts the pattern. Power, then, is not volume. It is stability. The river landing. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Sun Tzu. When I think of calm under pressure, I think of Chesley Sullenberger. A plane losing both engines. A city beneath him. Seconds to decide. What stands out is not only what he did, but how he was. His voice steady. His presence contained. In that moment, others did not follow instructions alone. They followed his state. It reminds me that calm is not private. It becomes a structure others can stand on. Perception Insight Quiz. You may pause to reflect for a moment. Open the quiz tab on the right or check the section in the description. The questions will quietly reveal how you've been interpreting what you've heard. They invite you to notice the hidden logic beneath your reactions. If you saw that clearly, your perception is operating at a higher resolution. The hidden gap between stimulus and response is our greatest power. Viktor Frankl. The space Viktor Frankl described is almost invisible, a fraction of a second. A thin line between what happens and what I do next. Most of the time, I do not notice it. Reaction feels immediate, automatic. But occasionally, something slows. A pause appears, and in that pause, there is choice. Not a grand choice, just enough space to not become the moment. Time under pressure. Haste is the enemy of clarity. Vauvenargues. Stress compresses time. Everything feels urgent. Words come faster. Decisions tighten. The world narrows into a single point that demands action. But urgency is often a feeling, not a fact. I have seen how easily the mind confuses the two. What feels immediate may not be important. And what is important often requires stillness. Calm, in this sense, stretches time. It restores proportion. The ego on trial. The ego is not master in its own house. Sigmund Freud. There are moments when a comment feels sharper than it is. When disagreement feels like rejection. When a small tension becomes personal. I notice how quickly identity attaches itself to outcomes. If something goes wrong, it feels like I am wrong. If someone challenges me, it feels like I am being diminished. But when I loosen this connection, something shifts. The moment becomes lighter. Less about me, more about what is happening. Calm seems to live in that separation. The first impact. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Tyson. The first surge of emotion cannot always be stopped. It arrives quickly, like weather, but what follows is less fixed. I have begun to see reactions as layers. The first is instinctive. The second is shaped. If I can let the first pass without building on it, the moment changes. Sometimes, calm is simply not adding more. The frame we choose. We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. Anais Nin. Two people can experience the same moment and live in entirely different realities. One sees threat, another sees noise. One escalates, another absorbs. I have started to ask, quietly, what is this moment actually asking of me? Not what it feels like, but what it is. Is this danger or discomfort? Is this attack or expression? The frame shapes the feeling, and the feeling shapes the response. Storms we live inside. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Epictetus. There are storms that do not belong to any single moment. The constant stream of outrage, urgency, comparison. The quiet anxiety about the future, about relevance, about change. I think of Warren Buffett writing calmly during financial collapse, seeing opportunity where others saw loss. Not because the storm was absent, but because his relationship to it was different. Perhaps calm is not the removal of noise, but the ability to remain oriented within it. The unseen power. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. Confucius. I am beginning to understand that calm is not passive. It does not mean silence or withdrawal. It is an act of steadiness, a refusal to be carried away. In a world that often rewards reaction, calm feels almost invisible, but it changes outcomes quietly. It shifts conversations, relationships, directions. And maybe that is its nature, not loud, not obvious, but deeply shaping the way a life unfolds. I return to the question I started with, not how to control what happens, but how I meet it. And in that meeting, something becomes clear. The world I experience is not only what happens around me, it is also what happens within me. And in that inner space, calm is not something I create. It is something I allow. This is the Sapiens Way, where humanity reflects on the worlds it creates and the beings it is becoming. Thanks for your time. It's been a delight. What should we explore next? Comment, share, and save your insight. Subscribe to Orbital Sapiens and keep your thoughts bright.